Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. So welcome, everyone. You know, every second Tuesday, every second Friday, every third Monday, we get to chat with travel writers and members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association that we like to call IFWTWA. And today we are going to Southeast Michigan. I cannot pronounce the name of the major town that we're going to be talking about, but Petula Brown joining us, who's a travel writer, she sure can. So welcome, Petula. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa.
There's a link in the episode notes to our article because she's going to talk about these amazing festivals and events that you can attend this summer. So it's kind of between Ann Arbor and Detroit where we're going?
Well, really, it's in Washtenaw County in particular, and so that's basically between Ypsilanti, which is where I live, and then if you go out west, you head to Dexter and Chelsea, and we're really close to Ann Arbor, but I really felt strongly to bring light to the smaller communities. Everyone knows Ann Arbor because of University of Michigan, and certainly we're near Detroit, but there are a lot of smaller communities, including Ypsilanti, where I live, where they do great stuff over the summer, and I wanted to profile that.
Yeah, I mean, after winters, you all must be just like, let's get out there and play, get in that sun, But how big is Ypsilanti?
I would say, and let me preface by saying I'm originally from New York City, so
Okay.
I'm from a big, big city, but Ypsilanti's sort of a kind of a bedroom community of Ann
Okay.
Arbor, Michigan. So I, so it's bigger than a town, certainly. In the article I wrote on Ypsilanti in particular, I talked about Ypsilanti reminding me of the village, like New York City's Greenwich Village. Right?
Okay.
In some respects, but maybe more spread out than, the village
Mm.
is in a very that's very concentrated.
Now, how long have you lived there?
I moved here in 1992 to go to graduate school at University of Michigan, and at the time, I was living in Ann Arbor, but once I graduated from Ann Arbor, I regularly work in healthcare and information technology, and I moved to Ypsilanti, specifically Ypsilanti Township. And we bought a house here in 1999, and I've been here since then.
All right. I'd say you're quite ingrained. You're ingrained. You're there
Yep,
now. Basically 30 years really there. So
that's
that's
right.
cool. So what led you into travel writing? I have to get into that because I know you're kind of new on in the IFWA organization, right?
It's true. I recently
Oh,
joined.
you're gonna love it. You're
Yeah,
gonna love
no,
it.
I mean, it's been really, really great. Years ago, and I'm talking in the 1990s, when I first moved here, I was into travel light writing before I had my kids, and I'd written for magazines like the Ann Arbor News, which was the local paper at the time. Pathfinders Magazine is another one. AAA Michigan is another
Oh,
one.
wow.
And that was like in the 1990s. And then, I had kids and, focused on the work that I trained at U of M in healthcare IT. But now, I'm really interested in revisiting and getting more in depth. I will say during that whole time, I've been a columnist for the Crazy Wisdom Journal, which is a publication done by the Crazy Wisdom bookstore that's in Ann Arbor. And 3 times a year, I write a column called Healthful Hideaways that highlight places within 4 hours of Ann Arbor that people can visit, particularly to focus on health and wellness and well-being.
So spa retreats and that
Well,
kind of thing.
it runs the gamut. I've done bed and breakfasts. I've
Oh,
done spiritual retreats run by nuns.
oh,
I've done health focused and really like camping stuff. So kind of, get with the land sort of stuff. So it, runs the gamut.
I like that. Well, I'm excited to talk about Southeast Michigan. I know you've got these amazing festivals. There's the Sounds and Sights Festival in Chelsea, the Summer Festival in Dexter, and then the first Friday in Ypsilanti. I'm getting there, right?
Yep, you got
Ypsilanti?
it.
I'm getting there. Yep. And then John E. Lawrence Jazz Festival. Ooh, we like that. Michigan Celtic Festival. Is it Milan or Milan Lavender
Milan.
Harvest Festival?
Milan.
Milan. Okay, so Milan Lavender Harvest Festival, which oh my gosh, looks absolutely gorgeous. And then Thunder over Michigan. And I think this is really ties in with America's 250 celebration this year. And then Ipsy Pride.
Yep.
Awesome. So we've got some great things to talk about. So let's start at the beginning as your article again is linked in the episode notes. You can see photos and everything.
The Chelsea Sounds and Sights Festival. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So the Chelsea Sights and Sounds Festival, is really exciting. And, if you're into music, if you're into art, it's really a great place to go. Chelsea, if you know where Ann Arbor is, Chelsea is to the west of Ann Arbor.
Okay.
So, like, if Ann Arbor's kind of like our nexus, it's to the west on I-94, and it's a 2-day celebration. They're really focused on art. That's so if art is your thing, that's a really great place to go. You can see, a pedestrian passageway called the Chelsea Art Gallery, which is literally a pedestrian walkway that you can
Okay.
see a lot of great art. There's the Michigan Music Foundation, which is, hosting there that focuses on the Michigan's music culture in particular, and,
Oh,
they have separate kid and teen zones, because some things are more, kid-focused than others, but Chelsea Sounds and Sights really has options, across the spectrum in terms of ages, and of course, they have food trucks and such, but also, you like food trucks, but they also have their farmers market, which is also
oh.
open during that time. So if you wanna get on the more healthful side and get things
She's
from
getting us healthy here, no matter what.
local farmers, or you wanna get, fried, fill in the blank, they have something for you.
Corn dogs. Yes, funnel cakes, corn dogs, the whole thing. Well, one thing I think that really sounds great about this festival is the focus on like Michigan music and arts because the state of Michigan produces some of the best on the planet. I mean, I'm just saying. Of
Mhm.
course, you got Detroit up there too. I mean, you got to pull from there.
Yeah.
But I know that the Midwest, I'm an advocate for people to really dig into the music from the Midwest because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's your winters that, musicians burrow down and they're like, all right, it's too cold. I'm going to make music. But there's some of the best music that comes out of the Midwest as a whole. But like Michigan, I mean, that's your
We could do a whole segment just
I
on
could
music.
don't even start me on it. Don't even. I mean, it's competitive. Everyone always thinks LA, New York City. Sorry, it's true, but and Nashville and things like that. But I'm like, Michigan, I mean, some of the roots come from there,
Have to
So
come back because that's a whole other, like,
I know, sorry, I'm
subject.
just I'm like, but this is an event you can go to,
Oh, yes.
right? And
Yes.
and I like it that it's not so cityfied. So none of these destinations are so city, so that gives it a little bit more laid back.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it
Mhm.
feels more family focused too
Right.
with all of this. And so I know that we're going to get some more health and wellness in here. So we're going to D now for Dexter's Summer Festival.
Yep. Now that's
And
Dexter,
okay, we're
which
going
is
to Dex.
awesome. Yep, which is
Yeah.
also west of Ann Arbor, so it's basically between Chelsea and Ann Arbor, and they
Okay.
have their own summer festival. It's in early August, and, they certainly have their vendors and food trucks and bounce houses and stuff. The big thing that's interesting here is that they have their annual parade, which allows local businesses and organizations to to do something fun and be more interactive. Also, within walking distance of the main festival, they have the Mill Creek Park, which has some walking trails. So if you
Okay.
kind of say, "Oh, I wanna get a break from the crowds," 'cause, it is a festival, they have a very nice 6-acre Mill Creek Park that has walking
Cool.
trails and fishing docks that you can enjoy. You might need to get a fishing license, so that's something you wanna check on. But,
Okay.
definitely, there's a variety of things you can do there.
You might not do the fishing on the festival day. I don't know. It might be a little loud for those fish to
Fish,
come
right?
hang in unless they like good music. But I was going to say, yeah, that sounds like a destination unto itself,
Yeah.
to go to that park. And
Mhm.
of course, if you're going to go on a little hiking trail, that's a little touch of wellness in there.
That's right,
See,
get out. Mhm, that's true.
get some fresh air. Going to go to your town now for
Yes.
the first Friday.
Yes.
And now it sounds like you've got what? You've got a river, you've got a depot. I mean, you've got Oh, Depot Town. Wait a minute.
Depot Town,
Oh,
that's
wait, we
what it
got happy hour. Now listen, now this is my kind of wellness. We're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
relax
Yep,
for
yep.
happy hour.
Well, yeah, and actually, not just in the summer months, but for most of the year, they host First Friday Ypsilantis, where you can go to downtown Ypsilanti, which is, Michigan Avenue in Depot Town, and you can browse through different, vendors. There's restaurants, there's happy hour specials, there's retail hubs, there's bookstores and
Oh, we
such.
like that.
you can definitely, get a local flavor, and I'm always big into supporting local businesses. So this is a perfect opportunity to support local businesses, and it's a good walking experience in between, Michigan Avenue and
Mm.
Depot Town is, their major riverside park. So you can actually, if it takes a bit, but you can walk from Michigan Avenue through the Riverside Park to get to Depot Town. So that's very awesome. But they have
Oh,
bookstores. There's a place, that's Blackstone Bookstore. They focus on African American
okay,
literature
cool.
and publications. There's the Rocket, which is, you remember, I don't know if you ever had Now and Laters or any of those old school candies they had way back in the day, like,
Oh,
yep, yep. It's like this old school antique place, and stuff that you had when you were a kid, they sell, like, jawbreakers,
yeah, yeah.
and it's a really fun place, and so, that's definitely another a really great.
She busted out of the wellness section going into the candy zone,
I
but if
know,
it makes
I
you
know.
happy, can't be that bad.
But you walk you if you're walking in Michigan Avenue, you walk past there to get to the park, so then you can, burn those calories walking in Riverside Park.
But
Oh,
so is the Depot Town the actual downtown? Is that the name of the town?
it's interesting. I would say the Depot Town is the more historical part, and there's a whole
Okay.
history around Depot Town. There's a train track that goes straight through it, that has the train that
Mm,
goes from Detroit to, Chicago. There's a lot of turn of
cool.
the century architecture there. So I would say it's the more social historical hub, where
Cool.
Michigan Avenue is more of, I think, the business district. There's a taller building that's kind of an office building. There are restaurants there. But they're slightly different, but they're in walking distance from each other. But collectively, the two of them are kind of the
Mm.
main nexus of the city of Ypsilanti.
Now we're going to go to your Ford Lake Park, and I love this. I am a thing about music, obviously, and we're going back to it, so I'm excited about this. But this is John E. Lawrence Jazz Festival. I wonder who he is. But this is actually at a lake. You get to hear live music at
Yes.
a lake. That's
Yes.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so Johnny Lawrence was a person, locally who was really big in the music scene, and, you can certainly research him, but
Okay, I'm
over the
going
course
to.
of the summer, on Friday evenings, and if you go to the website, they have the, whole, schedule, you can see some really great performers. There's no cost to get in, but you do if you drive in, because it's in Ford Lake Park, there's an admission charge for you to basically pay to park. A tip is that if you live nearby, so I'm walking distance from it, you can actually walk, and neighbors do this. They make the trek, they bring their chairs and stuff, and they walk through the rivers through the, park and, find a seat. It's kind of very lawn-based, it's very much, people bring picnic stuff, they
Oh,
bring
cool.
their chairs, they have, food trucks, they have vendors, local vendors, but it's a really great thing, and it goes, from basically 7 o'clock until like 9:30. I will say that if you go, if you don't live here and you drive, it's one of the big traffic things that happen here, because
Okay.
the park is on the other side of I-94. So if you're on I-94, Ypsilanti downtown is on the north side, and Ford Lake Park is on the south side. So I would suggest, if you go, be prepared, because there's only one entrance in and one entrance out. And so, it takes some time to get through that.
Okay, well that's good tips. And really everything is going on this I-94 corridor, right? I want to go to the jazz thing. That's cool.
And one thing I will say, if you
Mm,
go, because it goes till nightfall, it helps when you leave, if you stay till the end, make sure you have a flashlight, or if your cell phone with a light, because they do have some lighting there, but it is in a park, right? So, and it is, you get to see the Ford Lake, and that's really nice to see as
mm.
well. But that's another tip, if you're going to stay till the end, bring some sort of lighting with you to help you get out.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Okay, more music. This time we're going Celtic, and oh my gosh, I do love a good Celtic festival. So much fun, and there's so much history connected to what they do with the games and the songs and everything. So this is like the States Celtic Festival, or
Well, what it's interesting, because how it started was because, Celine had a sister city, Brecon, Wales, right? And so that
okay.
sister city relationship really started the festival, and it was known as the Celine Celtic
Oh,
Festival. But it got so big. I mean, because Celine is, its own bedroom community that they kind of grew out of the space it had, and so now it's representing the entire state. It's hosted at the Washtenaw Farm Council grounds, which are in Ann Arbor, but that's because it's a bigger, footprint, because it was getting really, really big. But, across it because it's statewide. People come from all over the state and beyond. It's a 2-day
Wow.
festival in mid-July. And it's again another take on culture. They do a lot of crafting demonstrations and dance and music performances.
Mm.
They actually have a dance competition, a Highland dance competition. So in the lead up to that, local dance companies, they sign up to do that. They also host what's called a gathering of the mighty clans. And so you can
Mhm.
also, before sign up your clan and be able to be recognized in the parade and do some very historic clan-focused activities if you choose to sign up your clan. And then that's really great because if you're not part of a clan, you get to see the clans. They have their, own space. You get to see, them in the parade, and that's really awesome.
It's really fascinating. They have their own emblems, even their own tartans, and also you get into, I mean, if you're doing your genealogy, that's a thing too, is to find out what your clan is. And you get into the names like Campbell's. That's where we got our Campbell soup from, comes from the actual Campbell clan, which
Mhm.
is, stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
it's it's neat. It is
it
really
is.
neat. So, and the Highland dancing, did you know that that actually comes from soldiers? That
No,
is
I didn't know
actually
that. I
it's
didn't.
training. Well, on the Scottish side, so I could be wrong on the Welsh.
Mhm.
And if we can't get this wrong, we'll get in trouble. Trust me. But on the Scottish side, so they do the caber tossing as part of those athletic games. So this is, I mean, but what they used to do, the soldiers would take those huge cabers, those pieces of wood, throw them over a moat. That's why they're so big. And so they would have to be able to toss that over, and that's why there's caber tossing, so that they
Oh,
could get over the moat to go and attack a castle or a fort.
oh,
So
wow.
that's
I did
that
not
part. But then the Highland dancing, there's like the sword dance and all of those. It is actually how the soldiers actually trained for their sure-footedness to be able to fight.
Oh, I did not know
I
that.
did not know that until going to the Scottish Games and learning all that kind of stuff.
For history buffs, this is a really great,
Yeah.
if you're really into Celtic culture, that's great, but there's a lot of historical reference points that you can see, so if that's kind of your interest, this particular festival, is your place to be.
And different food.
And different food. Yep, that's another part.
Yes.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, listen, let's get into the food. That's always fun. Okay. I think this is exciting. The Lavender Harvest Festival in Milan.
Milan,
Milan. Oh
Milan.
my gosh. I will get the only way to get names 100% is to go. That's
That
it.
is when I moved here from New York, I kept saying Milan because in New York City, everyone one thinks Milan in Italy, right? And
Yeah.
people said, "No, it's Milan, Milan."
Wow. But they have a lavender festival. Look at this lavender behind me for those
Oh, yeah.
watching. That's where it's from. You're into wellness.
Mhm.
Lavender is one of those things you can, calm you down and all kinds of good
Right,
stuff.
right, and this is actually run by Lavender Lane, which is a local business that grows the lavender that, is behind you, and they use it to make a variety of products, whether it's aromatherapy, skincare, culinary items, items
Mm.
for kids, items for pets, you name it, they do something with lavender, and so that, they're a small business, and, in the summer, they have a festival where you can go on their property, you can walk through those lanes of lavender that you see and pick your own lavender. You can also go into their retail establishment, and they sell all this on their website, but you can go on their retail location and buy their products. But they make it a festival because they bring in food
Mm.
trucks. They have art and they also have a petting zoo and pony rides. So, if you're bringing kids, for people, if people want to wellness, going to a lavender farm is very maybe serene, and kids maybe not. So now they have a side place as well where kids can have some fun, while their family and adult members might want to, become one with the lavender.
I want to become one with the lavender. I do. I do. And you know what? Lavender lemonade. Have you had that?
Yep, I've had. I've had that. It's
Ooh,
really
with
good.
shortbread is really good.
And lavender shortbread, yep, that's something
Mhm.
else, and you can buy the ingredients for those things. Those are the type of things that Lavender Lane sells, not just at the festival, but all year round.
Ooh, that's cool. All right. So everyone, this is something unique to go to. And yeah, because it does pretty much stay there for the most of the month, right? Like the
The
lavender.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, well, it's wintertime, when they kinda shut down, but right, but once you get past the hump of winter and then it's spring, that's
yeah.
when they're really cultivating, and so it's that you can certainly go, anytime, but the festival's a nice place because you can, see some vendors as well, get some, good food, as well as go to the farm, but you can go there if you don't go during the festival, it's kinda quieter and it's kind of more low key, and it can be more sort of an introspective experience.
I want to go for sure. Now, the Paint Dexter Plein Air Festival. This is super cool. Plein air painting, a lot of people do that when you're out there outside and getting bugs in your paint. I'm just
I
saying.
know,
I'm
yeah.
like, it's not that easy. It looks very romantic, but it is not an easy thing to do. But it's so cool to witness because people get to understand and have a higher level of appreciation for art, I think, from this kind of
Well,
thing.
that's true, and, unlike going to a gallery, or sort of a museum, it's, in my view, very interactive, and this particular festival in August is 5 days because over
Wow.
the course of the days, different artists are doing their artwork, but then at the end, much of that art is available for sale, so
Oh,
that's one
cool.
reason it's longer to give, the materials time to dry and such so they can be purchased and, taken as a memento for the festival but it's really exciting. They have a lot of workshops. So, you can certainly watch people paint, which is fine, but they have workshops for kids and for
Mm,
high schoolers and adults, who are interested maybe in, learning more of the technique, whether you're never done it before, you might be a more advanced person. They have all those pieces. And then they have a quick draw competition where basically, anyone can sign up and you have 3 hours to create a painting that will be judged at the festival. So and I'm
wow.
not a painter, so, I am 3 to me, 3 hours is a long time, but, for folks who do this, you know, for a living, 3 hours is, that's kind of a short time,
That is
and
a short time.
it is a short time, and if you're not, or you're looking for the paints and, maybe you wanna take a break, it's right in downtown Dexter, which has its walking trails and historical sites as
Okay.
well. But, really the draw is for folks who really like art and art festivals, this is a very different take on that from, the traditional kinda, walking and, the different
You don't hear about plein air festivals that often. You really don't. You hear maybe there'll be a plein air demonstration within an art festival, but
Mhm.
not one dedicated to it. There's certain places that, but I can't go past 10 on my hands.
Right, right, and then to do them in a place like Dexter, it's a smaller community, so logistically, it's kind of easier to sort of manage because, it takes
Yeah.
a certain level of space, you wanna have people have room so that they can, maneuver,
hmm
so that's the perfect type of event for a smaller community to host than maybe what you'd see in, a
Yeah.
larger city.
Yeah, and I'm still even thinking of the ones that I've heard of, if they're actually even that kind, like if it's more demonstration and yeah, how fascinating. And do the artists come from across the country or are they mostly Michigan?
Well, I think there's a lot of Michigan,
Mm,
or the Midwest in particular.
mm,
I think they anyone, who wants to and can, come over there certainly can. And for folks who are really, artisans who really that's their focus, this is a perfect venue to present and perform, because in some respects it's a performance in an area where people are expecting and used to that sort of style.
exactly. That's okay. This is going to be a big one. In July is the Thunder over Michigan. This is definitely cool when we get into aviation history and we're thinking of the history of America, just America 250. I mean, we really did pioneer air travel in a lot of ways, and a lot of people are involved in it. And I've always just, I mean, could you imagine being the first people getting I mean, right now we're in North Carolina where it started, but
Yep, yeah.
if you could you imagine being the first people getting in there and even as fighter pilots and, and getting into air warfare, being
Right.
some of the first people out there doing it.
Right. No, I hear you. It's
Mm,
exciting. And, Thunder over Michigan, it's a big draw. And that's even before you celebrate the anniversary, right? So,
mhm.
over and above what they would typically do, there's focus on celebrating, America's anniversary. But before that even came up, there's the Flight Museum. You can certainly sign up to do sort of an aircraft ride. If you want to stay
Oh,
more on the ground, you can look at all sorts of models that are grounded that you can see and take pictures of. They're classic planes, they're modern planes, they're military planes, they're historical planes. And it's interesting to me because, to think that there's so much here, it's really a great thing. It's really great for kids because, of course, there's the planes, but they have educational outlets to do STEAM and exploration station activities, as well as, bounce houses as well. So this is
mm.
definitely, now for younger kids, because especially the planes and they're kind of loud, you got to think through that. But if you know it's called Thunder over Michigan, you're going someplace. It is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a quiet place.
Well, no, and the air shows are just so fascinating, especially when they do tricks and things like that. But on the ground to learn our air history is huge. It
Yes.
really is. Very cool. That is awesome. So there's a museum there for people, and so this is at the Willow Run Airport, right? And this is put together through the Michigan Flight Museum.
Yes, the
Very cool.
Michigan Flight Museum and Willow Run Airport is in Ypsilanti. So that's kind of on the outskirts of where you have downtown with those festivals, and then you have the Ford Lake Park, which has the jazz. There's another area called Willow Run neighborhood where that airport is and where this all happens because you need a big
And
space to, accommodate all these displays.
so the museum comes out with their things, or is the museum on the property?
There's a museum, it's, a smaller museum, but I think, they bring in stuff, because it's the Willow Airport, it's a nice size, but it's typically the museum is there, but this Thunder over Michigan really, amps it up. So you see
Yeah,
a lot more than what you might see, on a typical week.
yeah. No, no. That's wow. Very cool. All right. Now this is going to be fun too, everyone. Ipsy Pride. And so this happens in the depot town again, right?
Yeah, this
And
is in Depot Town. This is one of my fun events. Honoring and recognizing and celebrating diversity.
yes,
It's really great. And when you go there, if you're into people watching, it's something else. You see couples there, you see families there, you see drag
good.
there. For folks who are into the furry culture, you see fur. I don't know if you know what a furry is.
Yeah, yeah, I
The
do.
furries there, right? And everything,
That's going to raise some eyebrows to some if they're not aware,
yeah, that's why we
but
put
that's a
it out
good
there.
thing.
Oh, yeah, 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 and, it's and because it's right in Depot Town, Cross Street intersects, Riverside Park, which I mentioned earlier, and then there's another park called Frog Island Park, where they
Oh,
actually have a, running track usually, and it's used by some of the schools for running and such. So this is really great. I think the big thing here, they have food trucks and whatnot, but it's very energized right on Cross Street at the intersection. They have a performance stage, and so you can have lip
oh,
syncers and such. Then they have a dance area, and people kind of just go out and go dancing, and that's really awesome. But within the booths and the festival area, there are also a lot of nonprofits who are giving
okay.
information, whether it's focused on health and wellness, mental health, community
That's a big deal.
empowerment. It's a good
Hmm.
way to get their message across that people who might, otherwise, how would you, get in front of them? And this is a perfect way to do so. You see a lot of community focused endeavors and organizations, as well as folks there who are, there to party and have a good time.
Well, it's good. And then it's a positive, fun atmosphere instead of like, that's not the stuff that doesn't
Mhm.
work, you know?
Nope.
No one can force anything on anybody, but having it in a fun atmosphere and it takes the edge off of fear.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
It's laid back, people wear, I
Oh,
mean, I come in, basic stuff, but some people it's really kind
it's
of
like a
coming
carnival.
out and it's really, and there's a sense of feeling embraced
Oh,
and
nice.
appreciated and seen. And I think that's really awesome. But if you're into people watching, if you like live entertainment, because they do have an
I'm
entertainment
going
space.
to watch the drag. Come on now. That
That's
you
it.
know how much work goes into drag? Are you
Oh, yeah.
kidding me? I'm like, I don't I just even the makeup, I mean, you're gonna have to hold me down to do all that because it's not happening,
It
but
is not a
I
small
look at it,
thing.
I'm just
Uh,
going, "I'm all for it, go for it." But, man, you're gonna have to give me lessons and do something
oh,
with my eyebrows, I'm telling you. But
yeah, yeah.
I love it. The more we can celebrate diversity is the better to me. And it's great to see Michigan do that and do it in a fun, festive way. But I mean, look at these events. You've got unity, you've got and community, you've got aviation history, you've got art, you've got agriculture with the lavender, you've got, okay, the history and the culture with the Celtic, you got jazz, you've just got a whole good time downtown and you're downtown at the depot town. You've got, celebrating the season and also art and music again. I think this is such a well-rounded list. So
Yeah.
you must really enjoy living there.
Yeah, it makes winters much more bearable because
We
say,
know it's
"Oh,
coming. Well, do you do any winter festivals?
you know what? I so I am not a big winter person personally,
Mm-mm, me
but I do
neither.
know that there's a lot of things, especially in northern Michigan, where you have ice fishing, right? And
Yeah,
to be
no way.
really, that's, because you got to be really cold, like really cold to do some of those things. But, that could be another piece we can talk about because, they have hiking that they do over the winter,
That's
and that could be a whole nother thing. So,
I mean, it's, having done a little bit of Wisconsin winter, I learned quickly about winter, but you've got to get out there and embrace it. You can't ignore it. And it's about our attitudes, but you're not going to ever see me ice fishing. I'm allergic to fish, so that's not happening. But I am
okay.
so scared of walking on lakes, on frozen lakes, because there's just that part of me that goes, what if, I better go on a diet first.
Right, right, but you should have
That's,
me back because there's that piece, but there's whole other things in terms of ice carving festivals and
oh,
also
that's cool.
and restaurant weeks because, for some areas, it's a good way to get foot traffic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To get people out, and so that could be a whole 'nother segment as well, if
So
you're
basically, there's a lot going on, everybody.
yeah, yeah.
So I want people to know that you can also go, you've got a brand new Facebook page. So let's give her some likes over here. Go to PYB Journeys, and I've got that linked in the episode notes as well as her article. And also you write in a number of different magazines. So keep up with her on her Facebook page. So as things are published. And of course, for IFTWA, go to IFWTWA.org. IFTWA's conference is going to be up in Wisconsin this year. So are you going to cross over, do you think, to get a chance to go to the
Oh,
conference?
definitely. I mean, I've been to Wisconsin. I haven't. Well, I drove through Milwaukee, but it's in Milwaukee, so I'm excited to go because it's always
Awesome.
interesting to see, other parts of the Midwest because it's different. Michigan versus Illinois versus Wisconsin. It's all very different.
Yeah. But you all have good food and good music.
Yep, 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 yep.
And good people,
True.
But yeah, I'd say so you haven't been to their conference before. That was
So
like
this
last.
is my first time at their conference.
Okay, okay. So they are great and very informative with speakers and media trips and all that. And then you get to network. I don't know if you've had a chance to do any of their webinars or networking
Yep, I know
online.
it's very
Yeah,
informative. Very informative. I
very
like
cool.
those.
Cool. I think it's good for writers to have organizations because
True.
we get a little solitary,
That's true, that's true. In fact, there was a little mini gathering of IFWA members in Michigan, that we did, several months ago, just to kinda get faces and names and, get
Okay.
together virtually. So that was really great,
Oh, Amy had to be on there, right? Amy Piper.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
Amy, yep, yep,
Yep, she's on the
was.
board. Yep,
Mhm.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been a pleasure and you got me all like eye open now. So when we go out that way, we stop
Yes, thank you. Well, thank
and
you, Lisa, for
plan.
having me on,
Yeah,
definitely.
I just, the festivals sound fun, but all the parks and everything that are all connected and the museums and all of that. So even if you miss the festivals when you're in that region, I say stop the car, go taste some food and go into these different parks, maybe have a picnic or,
Oh, yeah.
go to the downtown, the depot town,
Mhm.
So it sounds good. Well,
Awesome.
listen, happy summer.
Happy summer to you, and enjoy and have a great time, and hope maybe I'll see you up this way sometime this summer.
You never know where our car will go.
Right.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!